Julie Jensen was working at a Sears department store in Oshkosh, Wisconsin when she met Mark Jensen. It was 1981. Both of them were students at a college nearby. They dated throughout college, married, and had 2 children, David and Douglas. On the surface, they seemed to have a good marriage. The white picket fence in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, the kids. But about 10 years after their relationship began, Julie had a brief affair with a coworker, Perry Tarika. It didn't last. Mark found out, and the couple tried to get past it and work on their marriage for the sake of their son David. Mark never really did forgive Julie, though, or at least that's what she believed. And how do we know what she believed? Well, she wrote a letter addressed to 2 law enforcement officers and gave that letter to her neighbor with instructions that if anything ever happened to her, she should give that letter to police. The letter attached a picture Julie took of a page from her husband's day planner. It was dated November 21st, 1998 at 7 a.m. She wrote that she wasn't sure what the list in the day planner meant, but she was concerned for her life. She talked about how Mark had not forgiven her for her affair and that she feared for her life. She said she would never leave the kids and hoped she was wrong, but they should know she would never commit suicide. She listed the medications that she took, how often she drank, and gave them other important information that would be good for officers to know, just in case she turned up dead. And she did. She did turn up dead at her home on December 3rd, 1998. And the neighbor handed over the letter to police. It turns out Mark was having his own affair with a woman named Kelly Labonte Freeman. Mark would later marry her, and after he went to prison, she assumed custody of the boys. The letter was used against Mark in his first trial, 10 years after Julie died. Julie had been poisoned with ethylene glycol, or antifreeze, and sleeping medication. And then when her breathing was suppressed enough, she was suffocated. Defense lawyers argued that she was depressed and committed suicide. It was like Julie was prescient in that letter. Except someone, while Julie was lying in her bed, was searching the internet on the family's computer for diminished consciousness from ethylene glycol poisoning before they tried to delete the searches. By Mark's admission, it wasn't Julie who got out of bed. She was not the one on that computer. Mark was convicted and sentenced to life without parole. He appealed because of that letter. Generally, a defendant has a right to face their accusers, and that's all witnesses against them. And Julie wasn't around for cross-examination. There are a few exceptions to that rule, but the courts held that a letter written by Julie 12 days before her death didn't qualify. So, he would have to have a new trial, and that letter, along with a voicemail that she left, would not be introduced. Another 15 years would pass, with appeals and proceedings, until he finally faced trial for a second time. By now, Julie had been dead for 25 years. This time, though, computer experts had really analyzed that computer and discovered that Mark had been harassing Julie for years, sending her explicit pictures and prank phone calls. That combined with notes he made that tried to make her look like she was losing her mind. Well, none of that did him any good at trial. He also talked to a coworker about hating his wife, talking to him about poisons and websites about murder. Combine that with those computer searches and forensics to match, well, Mark would be convicted again before a judge, and last April he was sentenced to life without parole. He could have divorced her, separated, whatever, but he chose not to do that. What he chose to do was torture her for a long time, the judge would say before sending Mark off to prison for life. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying these videos and want more, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any videos. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.